adventures.
I'm back out at the Indian Peaks Wilderness doing a little winter camping. It'll be a little bit below freezing overnight, and there's supposed to be a snowstorm tomorrow for a couple inches and some high winds. So should have a good adventure. I've got the truck kind of parked in this. I've got this little, I don't know how well it shows up, this kind of little square area in the truck parked to hopefully block some of that wind I'm expecting. I did bring the hot tent. Well, I brought a bunch of stuff, so we'll see what I actually play with. Set up the cover on the truck. It's crazy how warm I am. Sun's shining. It's in the low 40s, but it feels a lot warmer. I don't know. At least when you're in the sun and moving around. All right. Hardcore winter glamping. Got the truck. Got the hot tent. They're, what, 3 feet away, a meter apart. Look at that. I was able to get some stakes in, and I had to use rocks for a couple of these. I started using poles for supports on the inside, so this string is actually no longer necessary. Let's go inside and set up the stove. Got the stove basically lined up with the hole, and I just need to do the chimney. The stove is doesn't fold up or anything. It just it's just the size it is. So there's really nothing to do other than set it where you need it to go and make sure the ground's flat. I might have to shim the bottom if I have any trouble. There we go. If you don't know, these you need to burn these in once, and then once you do, they get a memory, and so I should be able to just open and roll it. And you kind of just work it until the rings slide all the way down. So I'm gonna just kind of fish it up through the ceiling. Okay. There we go. That's pretty good. And then just have this little clamp I like to put on to help hold it to the stove. And my hands are black. I've got my hammock set up. Should be good to 0 or 10 degrees because I went ahead and doubled up. I have an old sleeping bag that I turned into an underquilt by sewing some channels into it. So I've got 2 layers. It's not quite on right, I'll have to fix it, but I've got 2 layers. And then I went ahead and closed up this end because I think the wind will be coming from that direction. So there's a little crack here, but this has been pretty effective at splitting the wind for me in the past. I kind of wish I had maybe a couple snaps on there. All right, and then this end's a little more open. If I get too cold, I can always crawl in the truck. I can always get in the hot tent. I just had a blast of wind come through and knock the whole tent over. So I've reattached. I got bigger rocks. I went ahead and attached that one I didn't earlier, and I put another rock down to hold the first one in place. And the main problem was this string came loose, and this is a critical support. So once that came loose, all the poles fell down and the stove moved over, and I'm lucky that the pipe didn't bend. So I disconnected the pipe, set everything back up, and then I reconnected the pipe. And Sun's about down. I've been reinforcing everything with heavier rocks. Everything keeps sliding around. I think this guy's pretty sturdy now. I might get some more snow. I've been packing snow in. There's just kind of a big gap here. The wind is coming in this way, so I'm not as worried about this side, but I've kind of been packing up the snow around the edges. It's kind of nice. I just take the sled down there, scoop some snow into it, and then drag it back here and pour it. I have a carbon monoxide detector for in case I have any problems with the stove, but generally this will tend to go off when I open the door because it lets some carbon monoxide in, and then you close the door and it gets better. So you can kind of tell when the room's getting to where you can't breathe. But I like to have this because it tells me the internal temperature and just a safety measure. I am going to cut up some potatoes and make a kind of a soup. I got some bouillon, I got some cheese, and I've got like mashed potatoes, and I don't know, I've got like sausages and stuff like that. So I'm gonna cut up a little pot's worth of food and make a little potato, cheese, maybe sausage soup. So I've got went about halfway up with the potatoes. There, I cut up about half of that sausage into pretty small pieces. I'm just gonna add some water. I'm gonna let that heat up and let the potatoes get soft, and then I'll add some cheese kind of towards the end. Bouillon cube, beef bouillon. Drop that in there. So I don't know how long that's gonna take, maybe an hour. As long as it doesn't blast wind, everything seems real stable. The tent's holding up. There's been a few blasts of wind that come through, and they're kind of crazy, but I haven't had the tent come apart on me again. And I think everything outside's pretty solid. I'm gonna check it just here and there. Well, I'll give you a quick tour around if I can. I'm gonna have to go wide angle here. So obviously the stove's there, cooking my soup. The pipe goes out the stove jack in the top. It's a special material that keeps the tent material from burning. I learned last time that it's helpful to secure the tent around the pole so it's pretty stable. That way when the wind blows, it doesn't move around too much and bang up the pole. And then unlike last time, I don't know, the ceiling is kind of sagging down because I did just 2-point poles at the doors instead of doing a pole across. So I can't stand up in the middle like I used to, but I can stand up to either side next to the poles. And, well, I'm in a real comfy chair anyway. So I've got a rock down here holding the pole in place, and I've got a tree stump over here that is a little table. And then I've just got a pile of boxes and things that I'm using as tables. It's just all my stuff that I can kind of access from my super comfortable throne. It's a giant chair. There's nothing back there. And then I've got my sled with just random stuff in here that I'm just keeping off of the ground out of the snow. I just took a sip of this. It was in the cognac section. I assume it's cognac. It doesn't actually say that anywhere. So I didn't know what I was getting, but a friend of mine had kind of turned me on to cognac as an alternative to whiskey, and this is not bad. It's bubbling.
Potatoes are still a little too crunchy. I kind of wish I had cut them up smaller. Oh, the seasoning's good. Potatoes are soft now, so I'm starting to add some cheese. Oh yeah, the cheese is starting to melt. Oh, I love black pepper. Pretty sure that's cayenne. I don't know what the herbs were. Probably oregano and thyme, maybe. Come add a little garlic. Oh man, that's good. All right.
Every once in a while it gets a little cold. I just put a new log on, but when it gets cold, it's just kind of at my back. So I got this fleece blanket. I threw it over my chair. Maybe it'll give me just a little extra insulation. It's 60 degrees in here, sitting down. So at the top of the room, it's 80 degrees. It's funny because this is really super comfortable. Everything's nice. It's, like I said, hardcore winter glamping. But with the winds, with the high winds, it's a little bit like operating a sailboat. I'm mostly just sitting here, but when a big blast comes in, I have to kind of grab these poles and secure things. I'm like trying to make sure this thing just stays on the ground. There's one pole in particular that keeps moving around. I need to figure out how to secure it. I might actually tape it. I don't know. But yeah, as long as I'm in here, I'm not worried. But I don't know what would happen if I left. Wind's getting crazier and crazier. I just went out to check things, and the tarp is ripped. The tarp over the hammock, so I cannot use it tonight to protect myself. So I need to take that whole thing down, and I guess I'm going to sleep in the back of the truck, not the back. I took the truck camper bed out, so I got to sleep in the cab, actually, the back bench seat. I'm a little too long for that, but I'm going to have to make do. So I'm going to go out and take my gear down and move into the truck. So I've had some bad luck tonight, but I'm counting my blessings, I guess, because the hot tent failed before I lit the stove, and I was able to make it more secure, and it's held up all night. And so that was a lesson worth learning. And then the tarp failed before I went and slept in it. So I took it down and I packed it up, and I'm going to sleep in the truck. And I'm glad it didn't happen in the middle of the night. So good luck, I guess. Oh my God, disaster has struck. I had to take down everything. The hot tent's down, the stove is tipped over, just blowing. Oh no. The wind gusts are insane right now. Everything's back in the car. I look I look like a homeless person in this vehicle right now. It's just stuff everywhere. So I'm going to reorganize, get some sleep, and figure out what I'm doing in the morning. Well, good morning. I had a pretty good night's sleep in the truck, except for a little cramping because I'm just a little too long to fit back there, and my knee, it just hurts to have my knee bent all night. But I woke up this morning and the wind hasn't stopped. It's just non-stop really pretty big gusts. I mean, just blasts of wind just keep blowing through. And I know it's supposed to snow. With all my gear being destroyed last night, I think I've got grounds to call it and get out of here. I think I'm gonna drive around and see if I can get some good pictures of anything. It's gray and cloudy out too, so I don't know. This might just be a kind of a lousy trip. Sticking with the theme of hardcore winter glamping, I was supposed to be camping in a tent in a snowstorm tonight, but I'm in a hotel. So, so if that's not glamping, I don't know what is. But I've got a ton of food with me still. I can't cook, over a fire. But I can boil water. So tonight's dinner is Backpacker's Pantry drunken noodles with chicken and a Dogfish Head 60-minute IPA. It's too bad about this is kind of a lesson in knowing when to go. I kind of watched the snowstorm blow in behind me. This big cloud reared up over the mountains, and I'm glad I'm not up there. The destruction, so I lost my stovepipe. I just ordered a new one that's $50. That's unfortunate, but easily replaceable. The sad thing is my tarp. The tarp ripping, that thing's been through a lot, and I made that tarp, so that one is a little harder to replace. I'm gonna have to design and sew up a new one and figure out where it failed and improve on it. So that'll be some future thing we might see here. Anyway, I'm gonna try out this food. I'll give a quick review, and then I'm gonna head out and head home tomorrow. The smell, when I first opened the bag, I didn't think it was gonna be good, but it's delicious. It's a little bit sweet, not spicy, just sweet and salty. Really like the noodles, so it's good. This is also delicious. This is pretty good. This is a kind of a regular, kind of a standard IPA, 60-minute IPA. It's bitter. It has hops bitterness. I would say it's very bitter and not real floral with the hops. And I know Dogfish Head also does a 90-minute. They might do a 120-minute, but I know they do a 90-minute IPA as well. The longer you cook the IPAs, the more hoppy it gets, more bitter, and more concentrated. The sugars become more concentrated, so it's more higher in alcohol content. So 90, 120 minutes, they get more and more bitter and more alcoholic. And I don't know if you know anything about IPAs. They were designed for storage on ships, so they were supposed to be higher in alcohol and hops just for preservative reasons, so they would survive the trips to India from England. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing so you can follow along on my future adventures. So I've analyzed the issues with the gear failures that I had, and I'm going to fix up the hot tent. I think I'm going to add some supports to the top, so I'll probably do a video on that, kind of a DIY gear video, and I got to get that hot tent ready for, I think I'm going to take that up to Canada.